What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another end of the year awards video, talking about the brand new cards that we received all year going back to Kaldheim and up to the most recent set, Crimson Vow. As before in the previous end of the year awards videos, I will be taking your opinion into consideration here. If you want to stay up to date on the polls, just go to the community tab on my main page. There you will find the most recent posts, and you should be notified whenever I release new ones. So for this video, we're talking about the best enchantments of 2021. But before I get into the video, first I would like to remind you, if you have not already, please do subscribe. It helps me out a ton. It wouldn't be worth doing this without your awesome feedback. And become a channel member. It's the newest way that you can support. It's kind of like Patreon, but a little bit better because it's directly through YouTube. So please do check that out if you are interested. In Kaldheim, we received a few good enchantments. I would say the Return of the Sagas was interesting. King Narfi's Betrayal is awesome for mill. Binding the Old Gods. I think any kind of removal, in combination with what else this card does, it's pretty solid at the uncommon level. But two of the big ones from this set, I would say Reflections of Littjara. This was part of the theme of Kaldheim, was Creature Tribal. Of course, we have a lot of Changeling support in the set, so that's to no surprise. But probably the most explosive card that I think a lot of people wanted to experiment with was the Prismatic Bridge. Now, of course, here we're not really talking about the flip side because that's a creature. You can just straight up play the Prismatic Bridge as an enchantment. And it may not seem like a lot, but as a commander option, it is always a threat to go off. Fill your deck with nothing but powerful creatures and you're pretty much guaranteed to get value off of it. And the next set, Strixhaven, didn't really offer a ton of enchantments. In fact, only a handful. We're going to actually talk about the Commander 2021 product and the newer card Cunning Rhetoric, because I think it has some potential. It's easy to avoid though. I think its biggest downside is how easy it is for people to just not attack you at all, which I think is a bit counterintuitive to why you would want to play it in the first place. You want to be able to exile cards from your opponent's libraries, you want to be able to play them. Bad thing is I don't think people fall for it. The other one from the same set, Monologue Tax, is kind of a poor man's Smothering Tithe. Let's be honest, it's not going to get you nearly as much value, but it's in the same family. It's the same idea. You want to be able to tax your opponents, slow them down. And while you do get treasure, I think it's really just here to slow your opponents down. And then for Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, we have actually some pretty good auras. Mantle of the Ancients is a card I've talked about before. It's insane. It really is a lot of value for what you're actually paying for. For only 5 mana, you get to bring back all of your equipments too. You're getting around the equip costs, everything. And they're all attached to one creature, and in addition to that, it also gets +1/+1 for each of them. So it's a win more card for a lot of those decks. It's a great recovery card. So underrated and really flying under the radar. And probably the coolest card from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, Teleportation Circle. If you love Conjurer's Closet, here you have it on a white enchantment. I know the newest Thassa does the same thing too. More of the same is never really a bad thing since this is a really good ability. And then for Modern Horizons 2, one of my favorite commanders of the year is Scythus Harvest's Hand. Really the ultimate Enchantress commander. All you're doing is just drawing cards, getting more value for what your deck is probably already doing pretty well. This being a commander option means that you can get it out there as soon as possible. You get one of these abilities out there, pretty much guaranteeing you that the rest of your game you're going to have value, you're going to keep a full hand. And Sanctum Weaver is a card you would want in a Scythus Harvest's Hand deck. Just think of it as an enchantment version of Priest of Titania. Priest of Titania is really good, so having a way of getting yourself a ton of mana, it's mana of any color too, is really an improvement to enchantments. And one of the craziest enchantments is not even just a pure enchantment, but it's the first enchantment land. Now, it was a logical conclusion we were going to reach this point. Since we've had artifact lands for a long time, why not have enchantment lands? And here we have one, Urza's Saga. Great value early game, makes it incredibly competitive the quicker your deck can be. And I think that's why a lot of people love Urza's Saga. Not a conventional enchantment, but it's technically an enchantment, so it belongs here. And then for Midnight Hunt, we're talking about some of the best enchantments all year. Unnatural Growth. Doubling the power and toughness of your creatures is pretty awesome, so you can do this each combat, really win more in green. If you're a fan of more expensive win cons like Craterhoof Behemoth, situationally this could win you the game with less mana. There's also Sigarda Splendor. If you're playing a consistent life gain deck, something in mono white, and you need that extra bit of card draw, you need some consistency, Sigarda Splendor is far from a bad card. But the one enchantment from the set Midnight Hunt that I think most would agree, probably the strongest in the whole set, the Meathook Massacre. Not only is its ETB one of the best ETBs all year on any card, but it also complements aristocrat strategies by draining life whenever creatures die. So a lot to like about this. The fact that it enables its own trigger really puts it in the same category as something like Massacre Worm, which can also be a game-winning play. Anytime you have a potential to just straight up win the game off of one card, you know you have a pretty good card. Even if the life gain and life drain isn't as significant as Massacre Worm, this will at least change the game in your favor. And probably the best set for enchantments all year is the most recent one, Crimson Vow. We have the card Hallowed Haunting. I love this. I think spirits, enchantments, connecting these two, making them a combined theme, was one of my favorite things about the set. And there are a lot of cards like these, a lot of enchantments where you play more enchantments, you get slow creature token value. I like this a lot more because the tokens you get are powerful. They become more powerful as you play more enchantments and you get more spirits. And one of the cool enchantments from the set is Necro Duality. Any kind of doubling ability, whether you're doubling creatures, doubling mana, tends to be pretty strong, and people want it. It also helps that there are a lot of combos in zombie decks. So some of the best cards all year are just win more cards, and I think the same is true for Necro Duality. However, I do think we are starting to experiment with zombie tokens a little bit more. So let's actually look at the polls here. Let's see what you guys voted on. In part 1 of round 1, we have Reflections of Lit Yara at 21%, talked about it. Binding the Old Gods around 19%, but the one that really won this was of course the Prismatic Bridge. Really powerful card, it just sits on the field and you get a ton of powerful creatures from your deck pretty easily. So let's look at part 2, Scythus Harvest's Hand, running away with this one 55%, Teleportation Circle, Monologue Tax, getting both close to 20%, and not a lot of love for Cunning Rhetoric or Mantle of the Ancients. Part 3 was a little bit closer here, and we're going to see what I decided to do in the final round because of that. But Urza Saga and the Meat Hook Massacre, neck and neck here, very close. Meat Hook Massacre technically won though, the rest pretty much ignored. In the final part of round 1, Necro Duality ran away with it, wasn't even close to being close, 73%. Kinda surprising because I know Hallowed Haunting is a big play. You just keep casting those enchantments, you keep getting big spirits, and your spirit army becomes tough to deal with. But Necro Duality is also a big play, enabling your zombie strategy. Getting doubles of things like zombie lords will make even the smallest zombie tokens a threat on the field. So we go to the final round, drum roll time, because we're about to announce the best enchantment that we received this year. Out of these 5 cards, even though there were only 4 parts to round 1, I decided I was going to give Urza Saga a second chance. Let's see how people feel when both of these are put up against 3 other good cards. And the Meat Hook Massacre still won. Only a 5% difference between it and Urza Saga in the previous poll, but out of these 5 people were like, you know what, this card is epic. This card is fantastic. It will straight up win games, because not only is it a board wipe, but it sits on the field and has a lasting impact. And I think that's why people chose it in the final round as well. So the best enchantment of 2021 is the Meat Hook Massacre from Midnight Hunt. Thank you all so much for watching. I should have some polls coming out next week. We are going to be continuing these until we eventually reach the best overall card of 2021. So it's going to be a blast. I think how I'll do that, I'll just choose the winner of each of these titles, and I'll put them against each other. Commander Void here signing off. I will see you all next time.